Welcome. Now I'm going to show you the notes feature and also the events and how events can be used with the Dashas. This is in version 10 and it applies to the earlier versions also. So once you've loaded a chart, say here Albert Einstein, and we can click the notes button, and here you can type whatever you like about Einstein or copy paste from somewhere else. And there's no limit. You can put really essentially unlimited amount of information here. And when you click close and save, it'll be saved to the disk. Now if we go into the main screen, we can see the notes again. It's here. Shift Control V will also do it with the keyboard. And this comes up, and this will stay up while you work on the screen under most circumstances. So you can keep on typing notes, you can be reading the notes, and you can also close and save. So if you decide to change the native you're working with, you should, and you've been writing notes, please save it before you change the native. That's the notes feature. It's very simple and very convenient. Now also, you can enter events. So you can do this in the data entry, or you can do it in the main screen. Here, you can click the events button. We've got one event here for Albert Einstein. And to enter an event, all you have to do is start typing. Nobel Prize. Then you press Tab or click in the first date field, and it's 09/11/1922. So you only have to type those digits and it keeps moving forwards. If you know the time, you can put that in. Then you click Add, or you press Alt-A on the keyboard. It's very convenient. And when you press OK, then it will be saved to the disk. So now you just click OK, and we're in the main screen, and you'll see that there's an events menu. Here's the events menu, and this gives you a separate, it has the option of adding and editing events, and it shows your events. It's convenient in some situations. Otherwise you can edit events from here and put in whatever you like here, or you can directly select one of these, like for example it's the Nobel Prize. So it appears as a secondary chart. Events always apply to the primary chart, and if you select one of them it becomes a secondary chart, so that you can see that here. So for example, this is his birth chart in the North Indian style and the South Indian style. We could change the South Indian one to be the event chart here. So we just click on this and we clear the search, and then we say native for this. This is the transit chart. No, that's the transit chart. Let's go for the Nobel Prize chart. There you go. You can tell from the heading here being blue, and this is blue here. So this is the situation of the planets when he got the Nobel Prize. Now let's look at some of the tables that are related to events. So if you click here and you type events, we're just clicking somewhere where we are happy to put a table. So you see it's a 1x1 table, which is like the size of this chart. There's 2x1, which is like the size of this chart, and some others we'll look at. So here you see, this is the current situation for him. This is the dashas for whatever this is. And then there are all the events. If there are more events than there's room, they'll scroll. You can always scroll dashas or dasha tables like this using ideally a wheel mouse, like a mouse with a wheel. I really recommend that for serious users. Alternatively, you can use with a trackpad, you can use 2 fingers and scroll up and down. So here we have the name. Sometimes the names are long. So if you click here, there's more room for the name. And this gives the dates. Now we'd like to put an actual Dasha chart. So we'll click here and we'll select Dashas. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the Vimshotri Dasha. Here we go. So this is Vimshotri Dashas. Because I had already a 2-cell object here, so the Dashas have become 2 cells. I'm just going to reduce it to 1 cell. So I click on here somewhere, and then I type, well, -1 or +1 is a fast way of doing it. There are other ways. You can type grid, something like to do with the width, and you'll see that this is for the actual page across, and this is for the object that we're looking at. So we're going to reduce the width by 1. So we click here, click done, and it's done. So, I mean, it's often convenient to have multiple columns of Vimshotri, but for the sake of today, we'll do it like this. And you can see that the events are starting to show up in the Dasha. So let's study where the Nobel Prize was won in his Dashas. So this is the beginning of Mercury here. If we click in the first column, this moves to the top. So when we click here, levels, to increase the number of levels, now we see that the Nobel Prize was awarded in Mercury, Jupiter. And if we click here and click this levels again, we see it was in Mercury, Jupiter, Venus. So if we study his chart, we see that Mercury and Venus are both in the 10th house and Jupiter is there in the 9th house. It's also the lord of the 10th house. So it's really a bit of a no-brainer that something good would happen at that time, especially since Venus is exalted. Now, you notice that this is Vimshotri and this is Vimshotri, but they don't have to be Vimshotri. Now let's suppose we click on this chart, then we see, we have to get rid of the search. So then we see Dashas for this, and we also see the Dashas that are available. And the ones that are applicable to this chart are marked with an asterisk. So let's try this Shodsotari. And now we'd like to see the events here in the Shodsotari. So we click on this and we click on Dasha for this. And we see the asterisk. So now, I mean, you don't have to click on the one with the asterisk, but it just helps. It actually helps enormously because the software is doing a lot of the work that astrologers used to have to do. So here you go. This is the Shodsotari, and here it is for the Nobel Prize. So we see in the Nobel Prize it's Saturn, Sun, Mercury. We have Saturn and Mercury in the 10th house, and we have Sun in the 9th. So in both the Vimshotri Dasha and Shodsotari Dasha, it's not, it's no stretch to understand why that is happening. So this is how, it's a very fantastic feature, really. I mean, I can say that because I kind of invented it in a way. I mean, I don't see this in other software, and it really is unbelievably useful. And it's very hard to imagine. I mean, before I did this, I saw it was really easy to make a mistake. You got the date here, and you got the date here, but just to be really certain where the event occurs, not easy actually. Even a smart guy can make a little mistake now and again, and that'll cause errors in your readings. So this is very convenient. So there's one more thing I wanted to show you. So if we go back to I could have typed events, whatever, but here is the thing called the Vimshotri Dashas and Events. Now this is called a Muhurta graph, not because it's really particularly for Muhurta, though it can be used, but it's primarily because it looks like all the other Muhurta charts. That's why I put general graph. So I understand it's something that can be used generally. So when we click on it, it takes a bit of space. You can, of course, drag the bottom right corner and make the thing smaller. But if you give it a bit of space, it's easier to use. So here we see this is over the course of a month. And this November 1922 has come up because that's the date here for the Nobel Prize. Whatever there is in this, what is usually the transit chart here, but of course it could be an event, will be the part of the dashas of the primary native that you're seeing in this chart. In other words, if you want to move around, it's very easy because you only have to change this. For example, let's switch to marriage. See, it's completely different. Now, you see this vertical line here. You can move this around, and as you move it, the chart, what is effectively a transit chart, is changing. And if you drag off the end of the Muhurta graph, it'll jump to the next month. But you can expand this to a year, to 10 years, even to 100 years. So now you start to see more of the events, and you can, again, you can move around very quickly. There's another great feature in these Muhurta graphs, which is called snap to event. So if you put the line close to an event and you click this snap thing, it'll go straight to the event. And you can do it not just for this event down here, but also changing of dashas. Like if we go towards the end of the Jupiter-Saturn and we click here, it's adjusted to the exact point that Jupiter changes into Saturn, or Mercury Mahadasha changes into Ketu, and so forth. So you can get Dasha Praveshis at different levels with one click. Now you can get the Dasha Pravesh in other ways, but this here is very convenient. It ignores this bottom line because they're too dense, you see. This is where it's really too dense. So it's just for this level and this level. And if we zoom in, then it's these top 3 levels, or the top 4 levels, or all the levels. So that just gives you some idea. Thank you very much.